Hey friends, welcome back to the show. This is part 2 of a 2-part series with the one and only Lauren Honeywell, the integrator and COO of Digital Business Evolution.
I'm back. Hi, everyone. This time I knew the cue.
I love it. If you didn't listen to part 1, definitely go take a listen. We talk about just the journey of becoming an integrator, how Lauren and I connected. We get into Lauren's background and her history and time in what is it called? What were you in? Retail? What is it called?
Hospitality.
Hospitality. Wow. My brain just went. Okay. Her 17 years in hospitality and just all the incredible things that she brings to the team. We were chatting a little bit in the first episode about communication, difficult conversations, what it's like having 2 bosses, and just kind of where we're going with the company. So in today's episode, we're going to get into a little bit more of the tactical, tangible. Now, if you don't have an integrator yet, you don't have a team yet, you're not in a place where you think about you're not even thinking about hiring yet, don't turn the episode off. Mm-mm. This is not something to overwhelm you or scare you. This is in fact something that I wish I listened to before possibly hiring even my first EA, because I just think it's like the mall map that we always talk about. It's just having an idea of like where you could potentially be going, what it could look like, because my guess is that some of the people listening, you're actually a couple steps closer than you think you are, and you don't realize how close it is. So don't shut it off just because you're not there yet. Listen to it. Let it be an expander for you. Let it excite you. And let's get into it. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. So let's start with this simple one. I use this story all the time, where when you first came on and you were my assistant, you would ask me about my process. And I didn't have a process, or so I thought. And you asked me, without making me feel dumb, you said, if I were to book a plane flight for you, what would your process be? I said, Lauren, I don't have a process. We should have known at that moment that you were an integrator. I said, Lauren, I don't have a process. You said, yes, you do. And I was like, I don't think I do. And then you took a really beautiful step forward and you walked me through extracting what my process was, which y'all, you can't read a prescription bottle from the inside. Sometimes you need someone on the outside helping walk you through to create your framework. Yes, I'm talking about your coaching programs and your courses. Okay. What you do intuitively doesn't mean it's not a process. So you said to me, do you remember this?
I remember that one of the tasks that you had put on the list was you're going to be booking flights.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I looked it up or something, and it was ask these questions.
Oh,
yeah.
sneaky. So you asked me, you said, what's your process for flying? And I said, I don't have one. And you said, okay, well, you definitely do. Do you typically fly a particular airline because there's that terminal near you, or you have points for that credit card? And I was like, oh yeah, I do. Actually, United, we have United card and there's a terminal at Newark. So I like to fly United. So you wrote that down. And then you said, are you a first class gal, or do you do economy? I'm like, whatever, economy. Okay. So you wrote that down. And then you said, do you like window, middle, or aisle? And I was like, obviously aisle. Middle seat. Are you kidding me? And window people.
I'm also an aisle girl.
Yeah. I mean, come on. So I said, obviously aisle. You're like, okay, you wrote that down. And then you asked me right or left. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And you said, which side of the plane do you like to sit on? And when I thought about it, I realized I like sitting in the aisle because I like to be able to stand up whenever I want. Mm-hmm. And also because I like to work on airplanes. And when I pull my laptop out, I'm a righty and I prefer my elbow to be in the aisle. So I have free range of my arm.
Yeah.
And so in just a split second, you pulled this process out of, you actually do have a particular place, on the plane, or the type of plane, or where you're sitting, or how you're sitting every time you book a flight. You just haven't realized it. And then to go one step further, do you have a, whatever those numbers are that we put in? What are they? Not global entry, but your TSA,
TSA.
TSA and all that. And so you took all that information down. So something that you do in the business is create processes. And sometimes you have to pull those processes out of my little head. And for the first 2 years, you did a lot of pulling processes out of my head. And it was pretty messy. And it was arduous. Oh, look at that word. It was tough. It was arduous. It was hard. It was long. It's a slow down to speed up. And it's not fun, even for someone who likes processes. Mm-hmm. How and where did you decide to put them? Because I had some things written down on random Post-it notes and Google Docs, but you came in and you were like, I am cleaning this shit up and I need you to get enrolled on my vision of cleaning it up. Yeah. I did quickly accept the calendar. I was like, clean anything you want, but don't touch my calendar.
Oh yeah, I didn't get access to the calendar until about 2 years in, which is just so hysterical that like took so long. But now I live and die by your calendar, which is just even more the irony, right? I think that a lot of the processes, what I would do too is I wouldn't, and I think that this is another tidbit for anyone that works for someone, is instead of asking, just watch and pay attention to what your boss is essentially doing so that you don't have to ask them their process, and try to take all the pieces you can from it. And then when you really need to like get that ask in, you're asking the most vital questions that you need the answers to, like that you can't figure out on your own because it's in their head or their password or in their email or whatever it is. And so I think that's what I started to do. I really was like kind of a stalker of Jess in the beginning. I would listen to coaching calls. I would watch her IG lives. I would watch her stories. I listened to the way she talked because I really wanted to learn who I was working for, and understand and know who she was and the brand was.
I'm glad I passed the test.
Well, I think that's all that made me like value and appreciate you and realize, wow, like this woman is incredible. And anyone that works with you is just so lucky to work for you, especially with our, signature offer, Empower. Not to like put a plug in here, but like Empower is incredible. And that was really what gave me the first buy-in. Was just, I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these results from these clients, and their lives are changing. And so I just like watched you like a creep in the background, like
Yeah, I love it. How'd you decide what platforms we were going to move over to though, as we started to set the processes up? Because interestingly, if you're listening and you're a founder, you're a visionary, and you are going to be hiring people, you do want to invest in your people. So it's not just giving Lauren a paycheck, right? It's how can we really invest in her? How can we continue to get her formal education or, other courses or programs? And then cool things too, like the Flamingo House, which is your co-working space that we cover that monthly because it means something to you and you want to get out of the house and you want to go there, and we want you to be happy. So initially, when you were like, I'm going to start setting up processes, let's start small, baby steps. We'll do G Suite, right? Like we'll do Google Docs and stuff. I then bought a Asana course for you. And I said, okay, cool. Let's move over to Asana. And for whatever reason, probably me, I'm the problem. It's me. We didn't really like run with it. Did you not love Asana, or it was just because I wasn't really using it?
At that point, I feel like the way that we were running things, it didn't feel necessary. It felt like this extra step of a thing to do. And again, I was just following the vibe I was getting from you and the resistance of it. And so I was like, you know what? One of my mottos is just keep it simple, stupid. Like if it works, just like keep moving and just get things done and make it work. But then eventually, as the company has grown and to what it is now, which is vastly different in the way that we run everything, we ended up moving over to Monday. I do believe Asana works Monday, ClickUp, whatever you decide. But once you learn something, once you learn a platform, that's what you end up sticking with. So now the team loves Monday, but it took the team probably a good year to get on to Monday with me. So I was in Monday all by myself, all lonely.
Yeah. So how were you navigating this like lonely, you're on an island by yourself on Monday, and then we're asking you what we're supposed to be doing and when things are due. And you're like, just look at the Monday board. And all three of us are like, but just tell me. So I just have so many, like, how did you, because it was about a year. So I would imagine you got frustrated. I would imagine it was annoying. I would imagine there were probably asks for your mentor that you were working with of like, how do I get my team enrolled? Because I'm over here doing this thing, but I'm on an island by myself. And how did you eventually get everybody over there?
Well, I think that, this is something that you don't get told when you desire and dream for something that you want. And so this role was something I totally wanted. I didn't know it, of course. It wasn't like in my journals, I want to be an integrator, but I knew that that something along the lines is this
every
is what
little
I wanted.
girl's dream.
I want to be an integrator. Imagine. And so I got hired, and obviously I was so thrilled to get hired. But what people don't tell you about when you get what you desire is now you have to show up, and now you have to perform, and now you have to figure it out. And that's something I've again learned so much. And I've kind of learned the hard way is at first I would kind of wait for you to tell me or Mike to tell me when something needs to happen. And now I realize, no, I need to make it happen. I can tell you guys what I want. And you're like, okay, great. How are we doing it? And I have to make it happen. And so when I first became the integrator, I was very scared. I was nervous. I was not good. I was clunky. I was probably crying a lot and like saying I wanted to quit behind the scenes, not because of Jess and Mike, but because it was just really hard and challenging. And so within that, I grew. And then eventually I would start to see things in the business that weren't working. And I was like, you know what? It's not the people, it's the systems or it's the process that's not working. And, first we did the reorg and that just did wonders for us. And, when people are frustrated, you want to change that as fast as you can, because no one wants to go to work feeling that way.
Yeah.
And the second we did that, we all started to like breathe easy. And at first it takes a little while, just like anything. It took a couple months and then all of a sudden it's like smooth sailing. Right. And then it was the same thing with Monday. I was like, okay, we got to get everyone in here. This is just not working anymore. I cannot babysit the team. I cannot tell everyone where they need to be and what they need to do. And again, here I'm going with all this stuff, but like there's inner child stuff that we're going to bring into our adult lives. And one of my things is I like to be needed. And I started to realize that's not good for business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I had to take away my personal items and bring in again, the vision and what's leading us to the vision, and me telling everyone what they're doing is a really terrible use of my time.
Yeah.
And so that's how we ended up on Monday.
Yeah. Well, and just like creating codependency in the team too, not meaning to do that, but it is creating that and an expectation that like you're always available. And so something that I noticed from an outside perspective was you just got really, I don't want to say tight, strict. You began to really honor your own boundaries.
Yeah.
And, our first company core value is integrity, and integrity means honoring your word. And that's what you started to do. You just started to honor that word. And it was really uncomfortable for everybody. I'm sure I can't speak for them. But to ask you something where I'm so used to just getting an answer right away. And then you instead of telling me the answer, you like point me in the direction of where something is. And I'm like, right. But it pretty quickly was like, oh, okay. She's actually empowering all of us to figure it out or get resourceful, or not even that, because we don't have to get resourceful. Everything's really in one place. It's like Lauren's just now empowering us to go figure it out and find it, because it is already there. And if it's not for some reason, then we can let her know. So at this point, I want to just publicly edify you for your boundaries.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't even realize I created them.
Oh yeah. I mean, you were just like, no, I'm not telling you that anymore.
Well, this is why, and this is why analytics matter and why metrics matter. I went into our Slack and I saw how many messages I had been sending, and I just kind of like jaw dropped. And again, like kind of wanted to like puff my feathers, like, look how many messages I sent. And then also realized that's really bad. That's not a good thing. That's not a flex.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact number, but it was like, I sent 100, Mike sent 100, Amanda sent 100, Lauren sent 30,000.
Yeah, it was like basically you could add up everyone that's in Slack, and I sent more than everyone combined, which of course, right? Naturally, I'm going to be the most because I talk to you, I talk to Mike, Amanda, Megan, Victor, right? I'm the glue. So I get that. But one of the things I started to take my control back with is like distraction and focus. And I started to notice how much time like the phone was taking, or the ding from Slack. I started to feel like Pavlov's dog, like with Slack. And I was like, this is not okay. This is so bad.
You're saying when I message you, you drool?
I actually turned the ding off because it was like bad.
Yeah. I don't have that on.
Yeah. It's no bueno.
No way.
And so what would happen was I was just constantly being pinged all day long at all different times, because we're in different time zones. And so I was noticing I'm not getting anything done. And again, the irony, when you really love what you do, and you want to scale and you want to grow and you want to take, the business to the vision, you have to use your time wisely and efficiently. I'm not in a 9-to-5 job I hate. Like I'm in a job where I get to take the time and use it wisely, or I can use it really not wisely. And then I could possibly not have a job. Right.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of cool and also crazy that my like reality depends on myself, right? And like the decisions I make every day. So I started to see just how bad it was. And then I'm sure, as a listener, it's, that the distraction of every time, you get like a ding or something, it takes you like 30 minutes to like get back into your task. And I was like, wow. So also like multitasking doesn't exist. It's terrible. Do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So
exhausting. Yeah. Okay. So at this very moment, it's July of 2023. We have a lot of different programs that we run. We're on a lot of different platforms, but as the one who's sort of puppeteering all of them, what are our like main platforms at this time that we're using either for communication with each other or clients, or just like main tech platforms?
I mean, I think the two that I would name is Monday.com and Slack. Those are my two favorite. And then obviously Google Drive is like just everything. So those are my three like lifelines.
Yeah.
It was funny. The other day I went into Monday and I went to our launch board and I clicked in, it like said like an error message. I was like, what? Like my heart almost dropped in my stomach. I was like, no, everything was fine.
Can you print Monday boards?
You can. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's have paper copies too.
Yeah. I'm going to save them in the drive.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So Monday and Slack and G Suite are basically like where the most important internal things are happening. And then of course we have one-stop shop. All of our courses are on Kajabi. We're still doing email through Kajabi. Webinar Jam. Zapier is talking. Everybody talks, or like it talks all of our platforms together. We use Advent. We use Facebook. We use, what else do we use? Canva.
Community text.
Community we use Community for texting.
Yeah. But Zapier is amazing too. I just don't personally use it all the time, but it's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, because it lets everything talk to each other. Now, that's where we are today. That is not where we were before. Again, processes were in my head, Post-it notes, and then everything lived on Kajabi. So there were many, many, many years, multiple millions in revenue before we ever got onto these different platforms. And our monthly overhead used to be, there was so many years. I remember I've made so many posts about it. My monthly overhead used to be $236 a month. $236 a month for $1 million a year, mostly profit. It was like easy peasy lemon squeezy. That is nowhere near our overhead now, not including salaries, but it's still nowhere near our overhead now. We pay for the pro version of a lot of these different platforms. We're on a lot of different platforms. And as your users go up on certain platforms and you need more product, you need more zaps, you need more emails, you do have to pay more. So just know we're nowhere near that now, but still relative to owning a brick and mortar, we are nowhere near what rent would cost and plumbing and electric and heating and gas and all of that. So I'm still a huge fan of digital business all day, every day. Yeah. Okay.
Same.
All right. So we've got the platforms where you're sort of dancing around and you're doing the whole puzzle piece thing. What do you actually do as an integrator? And this is in our company. This is not, all integrators.
Yeah. And I was going to say that too. So a lot of what I do is not what every integrator is going to do, right? Because a lot of what I do is, backing us into projects and planning out the year and project management, so to speak. And so some people might have a project manager on their team. But the big parts of the integrator, because sometimes it's like, wait, what does the integrator do? Like, what are they supposed to do? Like, it's such a weird role. But you really are overseeing everything in the company and you're making sure that everything is happening as it's supposed to. So if an email doesn't go out when it was supposed to go out, you reach out to the appropriate head of the department. Hey, why did this go out? What happened? Why was the link broken? And you're kind of investigating and being a scientist. And then you're fixing the process in which, why did that break, so that it can be fixed and not happen again. Also, the integrator should really be driving revenue. That should be one of your big goals is, how are you going to get to the goals that you want? So we always say like, you're like driving the ship, but like, or you're telling me where I want to go and I'm driving the ship.
Yeah.
And so if I don't know where I'm going and I'm steering blind, then I can't get to where I want to go. So I can't take you where you want to go, where we want to go.
Matey.
Oh, hey, matey. I know I'm going to get us captain hats. That'll be cute. Be like, if you listen to this episode. But also a big thing too, that I don't know that a lot of people talk about, but is like, I think I had said in part one, is that you're the heartbeat of the business. Like you really are the glue that holds it all together. And the other part of that is that you're the energy that is going to like bring it up or bring it down, right? And so it's a constant of managing your own energy, which is really important and can be really challenging in stressful situations, which is another thing I've had to learn. As you're hearing, I've had to learn a lot in these 2 years, but it's been amazing. And so with that, it's like, yeah, you have to manage your energy. And the other part to that too is the team culture, is bringing in team culture items and making sure everyone has the psychological safety that we're all seen and heard. If someone's not talking in a meeting, it's making sure, hey, what was your input that you wanted to share? Do you have anything to say? And just always noticing those things as well. And, bringing in like the core values winners and all that type of stuff. It seems like small little things, but at the end of the day, it really changes the way a company is run. And I knew I always wanted to do stuff like that because in corporate and just kind of growing up, I never really saw that modeled and I never understood it because again, I did another presentation for Jess and Mike and I shared with them that the bottom line of most companies and like how much they lose by having to hire and fire is so crazy. Whereas if they just invested in their employees, the bottom line would make so much more and they wouldn't lose as much. So I really don't understand why more companies don't believe in it.
Because I feel like sometimes they just get so big that you become a cog in a wheel, right? And like you're like this tiny little spoke in a big wheel. Nothing wrong with big corporations, but we have such a different dynamic when it's a smaller company. 4, 5, 6, 12, 14 of us or something counting coaches, you can kind of keep your finger on the pulse a lot more. And for the employee, even myself as the founder, you could feel that what you're about to say in like, let's say a meeting or a brainstorm session actually moves the needle, where at a big company, sometimes you like throw your best idea out and that they're not even like listening, or it's never going to make it to where you want it to go, or it's not going to ultimately make a difference. And that can be very disempowering. So something really cool that happens that I find in this kind of smaller dynamic is everything moves when someone says something. And for the record, I, the founder, I, the visionary, do not say exactly where the ship is going and only say yes to where I want to go. It's quite the opposite. And that's been a learning curve for me over the past couple of years of like really removing my ego. And in part one, you were talking about how we love the Hermoses. And I listened to a podcast recently where Layla was talking about the difference between 7 and 8 figure business owners. And she said, and this is, obviously with respect to the people. I listened to this too. Did you? She said, I think so. 7-figure business owners are typically the smartest in the room in every single department, meaning in our company, because we're not 8 figures yet. In our company, I would be hypothetically the smartest in marketing, the smartest in sales, the smartest in customer success, the smartest in course creation, digital, whatever it is. I would be the best copywriter of everyone on the team, which may or may not be true, right? But when you get to the 8-figure mark, what she has seen is that it's the opposite. And actually those 8-figure founders or CEOs are the dumbest of each department because they're hiring people that are further along for those departments. They're hiring people that have more experience and are smarter than them. So our team, the way that it works, it doesn't matter where you are in the org chart when it comes down to things like ideas, there's no hierarchy whatsoever. And we take on ideas from anyone. In fact, yesterday, talk about team culture. Once a month, Lauren hosts a happy hour call for all of our coaches. You could do cocktails, mocktails, whatever. And they have different themes. And so sometimes we dress up, sometimes we do, just all sorts of fun stuff. And yesterday was a trivia night. And so we do virtual trivia. I'm very sad to say that we did not win. We were not reigning champs again, but it's okay. And at the end of the call, we actually had asked everybody, including our support coaches, which is a voluntary position. We asked everybody's advice on something. We were just doing some brainstorming and we got some really great ideas and we're going to take them and run with them. And we never look at things like, oh, your idea is not good enough, or I don't want to hear from you because you're lower in a particular department or something like that. It's the opposite. We're trying to create a culture that you're a huge part of this because you're a huge part of the culture, where you have brought in visualization exercises for us. You've walked the team through meditations. You've brought us through reflection exercises, mid-year checkpoints, all this stuff where usually you approach me and you say, hey, I have an idea. Would it be okay if I put on a blah, blah, blah presentation at the next meeting? And I'm like, of course, I don't care. I don't think I've ever said no.
No, you've never said no.
Yeah. Cause it's like, I know what good is going to come out of that.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
what good is going to come out of that. But I think sometimes you still get nervous asking, which is really funny to me.
Well, the thing is that Jess can be pretty busy, and we all, we truly all have Zoom fatigue, right? At this point, we've been on Zoom a lot. And so I still enjoy it, but it can be a lot. And so I'm like, oh man, it's another thing. But every time we do them, whether it's the reflection or wouldn't it be nice exercises, amazing stuff always comes from it. Now, I will say the one thing I don't know that anyone else on the team gets as excited as I do is for the quarterlies.
No, you're alone on that one. You're back on your island by yourself.
Yeah. I'm like the person that loves the meetings, and I'm the person that the team's like, oh, another meeting. But when you're with 4 people, you have to have more meetings,
Yeah.
I try to condense them as much as possible because I
Yeah.
don't like to waste our time though.
Well, and talking about the tasks and things that you do, you actually run the meetings now.
Yeah.
Well, you have been for a long time. So what changed
Yeah.
when you started running the meetings?
Well, it's funny. So, you think back to like how you started and you're just like, wow, we just would like go around like, this is what I'm doing. How about this? And like, there was just no structure or organization at all. It's kind of comical and cute. And then I started to take over the meetings. And so again, as I was saying, I kind of was like hand holding the team. And so we ran with these agendas, and I would literally have an agenda there was every part of the business was in the agenda, and everything that happened in said part of the business every week. And I would sit on Sundays for like an hour to 2 hours, and I would get these agendas ready. Now, the cool part about that was I was setting myself up for success for the week, right? I knew where everything was. However, I realized, after learning what the EOS model does, that this wasn't also the most efficient use of our time, that we should all learn and know what we're doing at all parts of the business from the quarterly. And so now we run it in a very different way, with, an issues lists. And if you go get the traction book, you can learn more about that. We'll link it in the show notes. But now, yeah, I run the meetings and it's just more structured, right?
Yeah.
And we just really have a flow to it. We do get off, topics sometimes and go onto tangents as we do, but they're just a lot more structured. And as we know, structure creates freedom.
That's right. Walk me through a day in your life. Is there something like, I'm assuming that you do check Slack in the morning as like a kind of a beginning of the day thing, but what does a typical day look like when you're not putting out fires?
So a typical day can look like anything, I'll wake up, I'll work out, I'll, make my coffee. I am a big journaler, meditator, reader. So I'll do all of that. I really like to take care of myself a lot before I start the day so I can fill my cup up before filling everyone else's cup. Because like I said, you're the energy on the team. And so you've really got to make sure your head is in the right place. Now, there are times definitely when I jump on the computer because I'm like, I just want to get some things done, or I just like want to have a couple of hours of just like quiet time to myself. But I traditionally started the opposite way. And then I will jump into looking at Slack, making sure that anything that needs to be answered is answered. I'll go through my emails, give those a run through. I'll go
How
through
many
the
email
Monday.
accounts do you have? How many are
Only
you
3.
responsible for? Okay, 3.
Only 3. And then just depending on where the needs are, whether or not we have like an upcoming, training, or we've got podcasts, or wherever we are in the business, that's where I'll then go. So I'll go check the Monday boards, make sure my tasks are, good there. And then I'll, work on some podcast stuff, or I'll work in some customer success stuff. I'll work on integrator items. So like next week, I'll be working on getting our quarterly ready, so every day is actually really different. And I think that's one of the things I really love about what I do is it's not monotonous in any sense. And I'm always learning, some days it could be a lot of education. I've started to really like lean into what does it look like to learn more, and then sometimes it's more of, task grabbing, and you're just doing a bunch of stuff to get things done and checked off. But yeah.
Yeah. And you're also managing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, 8 people or something, I think.
Is it that many? Oh
I
my
think
God.
it's 8. Yeah. Something. Yeah. Just about 8 at any given moment. Which is also interesting because the people that you're managing have very different personalities. Their jobs have very different roles and expectations. Yeah, I think you're managing about 8 different people at any given time. And like you said, it kind of depends on what project we're working on, where your focus might be. What is your standing number of meetings at this point per week? Not counting like, let's jump on a call.
So probably 1, 2, 3, about 4.
Okay.
But it can change. Yeah, it's manageable. But sometimes, I can have up to 8 to 10 hours of meetings in a week.
Yeah.
And then jumping on, spontaneously could turn into 12 to 15. I was telling Jess in the beginning, that was so funny. I didn't have any meetings, right? Because we just started. So it was like the team meeting. That was it. And I was like, I want more Zoom meetings. And now you try to get the meetings off your calendar. And
whatever you wish for, Lauren, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
What I heard was more meetings and an iPad. So, we just had to make it happen for you. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Where else are we going to go here? What do we want to talk about? I want to get into some of the like nitty gritty. Okay. I know.
Ooh.
Let's get into some like either things to watch out for, like mistakes, or let's go the route of what should someone be looking for if they're going to be hiring an integrator. So like, what are some of the mistakes that you see either CEOs, founders making, or integrators making that could be detrimental? Let's start with that one.
By detrimental, well, I guess the first place we can start is, from what I hear is the culture, right? Because the culture is built from the top down. So if Jess was not who she was, then I wouldn't feel safe to have been a leader as well, or to be empowered to be a leader within the team, or to have the happy hours, or even to go to her to ask, even if the answer is going to be no. If someone is afraid, they're not even going to ask. So I believe that the culture is everything. Psychological safety is everything, because it's all built around that. And you want your employees, you want your direct reports to always feel comfortable coming to you, and fostering that is so, so important.
Yeah.
I also think shooting ideas down or making someone feel like stupid for their idea is like just really a no-no. We all can say stupid things. I say, not, I don't even like the word stupid, could say things that, maybe someone else just doesn't think is as smart or whatever. So I think that's really like the most important stuff to look out for.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. When we're talking leadership, this is something that I know for me, you sort of get thrown into, right? And we talk about this with our coaches all the time. It's like, I started an Instagram account and I'm making money. And it's like, that's very different than being a leader. Having followers and being a leader is different. Having a team, it's just different. And not everybody wants to be a leader or a CEO or managing people.
Yeah.
As we have grown, you have also had to become a leader, where before it was, like you said, maybe some like TaskRabbit stuff. Like, yes, you're coming to the table with ideas, and yes, you're the one running all the projects, but now you're managing people as well, which requires you to be a leader, and you've had to delegate. Now, we all know how hard it was for me to delegate, to elevate. Now, I didn't want to give up control of things like my calendar. How has it been for you delegating?
I'm not going to lie, it's challenging, and it's still a challenge that I'm facing today. I think that it's ironic, because I would tell Jess, come on, just give it to me, or this or that, or just trust me. And now I get to feel how scary it is to trust someone else. And funny enough, one of the people is my sister, who helps me with a lot of items. And she is, customer service, like assistant, rep, whatever you want to call. And she had made a mistake with a coaching call, right? And I remember when it happened, and I was just like, okay, this happened. It's okay. Like, everyone's fine. Set up the calls. I'll let her know. And guess what? She'll probably never make that mistake ever again.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part about delegating, is it's so easy to be like, I can just do it myself. But when you hear yourself say that, immediately do not do it. Immediately keep it with the person that's supposed to do it, because that's the whole point, is that we can all do everything within a business. But again, to bring up Layla Hermosi, one of her big things is like, focus on your one thing and put your time and energy into one thing. If you're, depleted and looking at all these other things, you can't be so good. You're a jack of all trades then. So
do you feel like your leadership there, because there's like a trickle that happens, or a ripple that happens. So person on the team doesn't do what they're supposed to do. You're managing that person. So ultimately, when it comes up to me, you didn't stop that you didn't do it. Like, you didn't get it. So it comes all the way up to me, versus if like, it's just me giving it to you, there's less chain of command. and I'm ultimately responsible. Do you feel like it's worse for you? Because you're like the middle woman between me and everybody.
Sometimes, yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it can be hard. Sometimes it can be challenging to be that middle person. I'm like, oh man, I'm like the messenger, don't shoot me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't shoot the
But
messenger, but also there's like, oh, like, did I drop the ball or could I have done
yeah,
something different?
yeah.
Or now I have to manage this person.
Yeah, yeah, but I think that's just part of the role and part of the growth is, and I was even thinking about like the term leader too. The term leader is thrown around, right? You're not, it's not a title. You just are. It's a way of being. And so when you decide, okay, I'm going to do this, then you have to show up in it. And some days are going to be, 10 out of 10s, and other days are going to be ones. And it's not going to be fun. But the flip side of that is that you're growing and you're learning. And again, Hermosi said this and Mike was sharing it on the podcast. Like, it's not always supposed to be easy,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be hard. And we always hear this, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Right. So yeah, we have moments like that a lot. And I feel like the one thing I do is I'm like, okay, yeah, that, this happened. And when I get, told, hey, this happened, I'm a little like disappointed or this or that. I have to just look at myself and say, just be honest and apologize. And that's
Yeah.
all you can do. And then just don't make it again. And also like, let it go. Cause the one thing I would do is like harbor it.
Yeah.
And I notice when I harbor things, then I act within that energy and then it happens more. So it's like being scared and fearful isn't going to help you do anything. It's just like, well, how can I prevent that? And
Yeah.
then when you lean into that energy, you go to this side and you're more empowered.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. Well, let's chat about some of those hard things, because over the last 3 years, we've all learned a lot of hard lessons. What would you say some of the most challenging or difficult lessons that you learned have been?
that a lot of things are my responsibility, that I didn't want to, like if the ball dropped, I wanted to blame someone else because that was easier to do than to say, oh, that is my responsibility and I got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Or, they're just being like, like lack of communication with something, and you saying to me, hey, what happened here? Where was the disconnect? And then it's like, I have to figure it out, or I have to give you an answer, and it's like, there have been tears, there have been, pop-up calls early in the morning when they weren't supposed to be, to figure those things out. But I think in the last 3 years, I mean, it's those things don't happen as often anymore as they once did. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It is crazy to think about how far like the whole team has come. And it's crazy too, because it's like, it's been 3 years, but like, it's only been 3 years. It just feels like it's been so much longer. And I can't even remember what it was like doing this without you guys.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching you in the beginning and I was just like, what is going on here? It was so wild. And now to be where we are, it's in building this team. And that's why when people, like you said, get on Instagram and they're like, oh, I'm a CEO. And it's like, no, you're one person. You're not a CEO.
Yeah.
Building a company, building a team is a whole different animal, and it's a beast, and it's not for everyone. And it's, a lot of entrepreneurs will say this, that build companies. Like, if I knew what it was going to take, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yep.
But then when you're in the thick of it, you're like, okay, we've got one of two things. We can either keep going or we can say, forget it, And so we decided a long time ago, like, we're going to do this, and it's going to be hard and it's going to be challenging. Well, but at the end of the day, and I just read this in my team culture book, the guy said, we're paid to solve problems. Find people you enjoy solving problems with. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's us,
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And it is so true when clients will like get frustrated or complain about their problems. And I have always said, it's like, literally your job as an entrepreneur. If you don't have problems, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to have problems. It's not fun when like, they're not the ones you wanted to solve.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine Apple, like what problems they deal with all the time? Like, I can't even conjure it up,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel that I'm going to have to ask you a couple of our signature questions here.
Okay, let's do it.
I mean, hypothetically speaking, if I were to cut you a check for $50,000 tomorrow, our $50,000 question, you had to use it in the business You could use it on the business or in the business. You could split it up, or you can keep it in one lump sum. How would you, Lauren Honeywell, our integrator, use this money?
In the business.
In or on? Yeah.
I would either hire someone, or I would split it up and hire two people, like part-time, two part-time people. Yeah.
What type of people? Like what role?
Well, so I've thought about this a lot, and I think one would be like in customer success.
Yeah.
And then we were toying around with like social media. So I think those two are very important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree. And an assistant, because I lost mine.
Yeah.
She promoted herself. Before we get into like rapid fires and stuff, do you have any questions for me?
What have the past 3 years been like working with me and like watching my evolution?
Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, like you said, there have been a lot of tough lessons. There's been a lot of frustration. I think we've all, whether it was a night crying or just like a frustrated conversation or something rolling off of the tongue that maybe you're like, oh, I didn't actually mean to say that out loud. There've been apologies. There's been just a lot of communication that I never really had practiced before, even with significant others. Like Mike and I have conversations sometimes, but it's not often that we're kind of having those difficult conversations. So it's been more of that than I've ever experienced in my life. I didn't grow up in a family where that was even something that was like, there was no yelling, there was no fighting ever in front of me. So just not that we yell or fight on this team at all, but like to have someone even like, counter your belief, right? To have someone show you a different way. For me, it's definitely been, and this has been a journey for the last decade of removing my ego of I'm not the smartest in the room. I don't want to be the smartest in the room. I don't have all the answers. I can definitely admit when I'm wrong. I mean, sometimes it's harder than others. Asking for help and giving up control. I mean, the last 3 years have been like a rocket ship to those things. Those were things I was practicing doing, but there's a different level of like, I mean, now at this point, I feel like I don't even know sometimes what is going on. And I'm like, oh, I'll look at the calendar and like things are there. And I'm like, I don't know how that got there, but okay, like that's what I'm doing today. And it feels nice to have that, to be in that space. The level of trust that I have for our team. And I think also for me, this wasn't my vision initially. Like the business, yes, the clients, the impact, but I never journaled about like leading a team of people and growing a company. That was just never something that I had thought about. I mean, if I really were to go back, I'd never even thought I'd be an entrepreneur because that wasn't on the table. I mean, I went to school for my doctorate of physical therapy and then I was an elementary school teacher. So like where in that vision was any of this? So I think there's a lot of things where actually you'll probably be excited to hear this. I realized the other day in doing a podcast, I sort of had reframed the vision and rewritten the goals and the vision a couple of years ago, probably when we all started really working together. And I had written it to like this point, and we're in it and we live it. Like we wake up and we live it every day, and that's great. And I'm super grateful, but I haven't really, and I heard this from someone I was interviewing and I was like, oh my God, me too. I haven't really written past where we are right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's time for me to like go back to the drawing board and really like get to dream and think bigger. Cause yes, there's certain things in the business that we haven't done yet that I like already know is happening and we're going to do.
Yeah.
But also when it comes to just like the big vision or the day-to-day or like kind of where we're at, I'm like, I haven't really gotten further. You think 5-year, 10-year goal. And I'm like, oh, I'm here. I've been living in it for a couple of years, which is great. But it's like, well, let's do another 5 or 10 now.
Yeah. And also within that, like how big do you actually want a team to be? Right. Because going so big doesn't make it better all the time. And sometimes it actually makes it worse. So, I've been thinking this a lot lately, but life is just this very like delicate dance between like teetering on the line, right? Like love and hate. If your partner goes and cheats on you, you hate them, right? But 2 minutes before that, you love them. So it's the same thing with business, that there's this line that you don't want to pass because, you're like, oh, then I don't want it anymore. Kind of like the Sophia Amoruso, right? Like how she got so big that she ended up getting pushed out of her own company.
Yeah.
And, those are realities that happen. So it's like, you got to dream big, but then like, what are the limits? But then you don't want to limit yourself. So, but that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. Ready for some rapid fire?
Let's do it.
I mean, at this point, I'm usually like, pimp yourself out. Tell the audience where they can find you. So go ahead. Where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Sassy Gal & Co, but I'm going to be changing it to my name, Lauren Honeywell, which I love. So I'm letting go of a little identity that once was. And yeah, now it's going to be my name and going to see more integrator stuff on there. It'll be fun.
I love it. And do you have a free opt-in for everybody?
I don't, but I should have one, right?
Well, you can use one of ours.
Yeah, let's use one of ours. What do we have? Which one do I love? How about just in general? We're going to drop the freebies, all of them, so you could pick one of your liking, because we have so many juicy ones in there.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So we'll put that in the show notes. Cool.
Yeah.
Victor, make sure you get that one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for some rapid fire?
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Favorite movie?
Oh gosh, that's tough. I'm one of those weird people that has one in different genres, but I'm just going to say the movie that I really loved. It's kind of a weird movie, but it's called Closer. Have you ever seen it?
I don't know. Who's in it?
Gosh, it's Jude Law and Natalie Portman and Julia Roberts.
It's funny. I was going to guess Pretty Woman was your favorite movie. So I got the Julia Roberts thing.
Well, it's actually kind of it's kind of a little bit of a messed up like love movie, but let's go with a fun one. I love Crazy Rich Asians.
Okay. I haven't seen that either.
So fun.
I haven't seen that either.
Yeah.
What is something that people get wrong about you?
Oh, I think people think I'm like, just like, because I have a tough exterior, that I'm like maybe mean, but then when they meet me, they're like, oh my gosh, you're like so
sunshine.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's sunshine on the team. Yeah. What are you currently reading? You said you were reading a team culture book.
Yeah. So I just finished actually this morning Culture Code, and I'm rereading now Compound Effect. Right.
Oh,
yeah.
Good one. Yeah. It's a good one. What'd you want to be when you were a kid?
An actress.
Oh, I didn't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Guilty pleasure, can't be Netflix or food.
Guilty pleasure. Then I guess I'm just gonna have to go with Sunrise at the Beach. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
If you did a TED Talk on nothing that you're known for, what would the topic be?
Nothing I'm known for.
So no team culture, no integrator.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh, that's really challenging.
Yeah.
I guess it would be on, because I'm looking outside at trees, how nature makes us happier.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Good one. All right. And as we end every episode the same way, you were on the team when we named the company Digital Business Evolution. And we named it that because we believe we're always evolving and growing, and our companies are reflections of that. What is your next personal or business evolution?
Well, I am currently doing 75 hard. So in 75 days, I feel like I am going to be a very different human being. Yeah. So yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, there you have it, folks. Lauren Honeywell on the podcast. The crowd goes wild. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on. This is super fun. It's such an easy conversation. We don't have to have like notes, and I don't have to do research ahead of time. We can just have a candid conversation. If you loved this, obviously let us know. I would love to hear your feedback if you are loving hearing from the team, because it's something that we want to do more of to showcase the team and what they do and how they structure the business and what it looks like. So as always, take a screenshot of the episode, share it on social, tag me at I am Jessica DeRose. Let us know what those takeaways were. Let us know if you loved it. And please head on over and give us a rating and a review, would you?
Yes. Come on.
Give us those 5 stars if you're loving it. Thanks so much for being here. If you didn't listen to part 1 yet, go make sure you go back and listen to part 1. And as always, friends, thank you. Cheers to your evolution.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.